you at, G? G,
Yo, what's up?
what's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes. How you doing, man?
Doing great, bro. How you feeling?
I'm good. I forgot my kerchief, but I'll power through.
I think it's been a thunderstorm with some weird shit for like 4 days in Atlanta. So
Yeah, they've been promising me thunderstorms, and then they don't come, and I end up having to go out and water my crops in the middle of the night because the rain I was expecting never comes.
is there like some type of big storm coming through or something?
Yesterday and today they were forecasting, and then there was no rain at all. It was dry. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you bring me a kerchief?
This man got his assistant bringing him.
What you laughing at?
What are you doing, bro?
I forgot a kerchief. It's hot up here.
I done left for a week, and this dude got a secretary. Hey, yeah, can you bring me? What the fuck is that, bro?
Yeah.
Let me see if you can order a latte or something. Order.
I can, but I have a tea here, so that's a little late. But yeah, and I fool around with my secretary too, so I might be up there sharing a cell with Diddy for inappropriate workplace contact.
That man,
So
that man shooting shots at his secretary. Crazy. What you been up to though, man?
I just got back from Lansing, Michigan. So, and beyond that, just the daily grind, the daily misery.
Mm-mm.
Do you like when the comments come up here or no?
I don't really care. I haven't used that feature a lot, but actually I can't see it now. Good anyway. So
You can't see it?
wait, is that Nambi? But
Yeah.
did they comment something or that's just their tag?
That's
Oh,
when
no.
the people, it just shows the comment section on the screen. But
Oh, so he got the fire.
sometimes when we go low, they go nasty. The comment section can get mad reckless.
I think.
But anyway,
hold on. Let me see something. The only reason why I won't like it is because you can see it on our screen as like the host. But if you can get rid of the big one and then just use what you see on the screen, I would do it that way.
I don't think I can do that. So
No, I'm
just
talking
like
about me.
that.
No, that's
Oh,
it. No, all that does is a comment.
Yeah.
On stage. That's cool though. Let's leave it on stage.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because I feel like people with a big screen, they can see it better than we can see it.
All right, I'll leave it off. Okay. Now I'm ready. I was thinking today, man, I've been hearing a lot about, and I don't know, you're not really prepared for this discussion because you're just not. It's going to take you a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been hearing a lot about midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And people are saying, I don't know how up you on pop culture. I know you just stay in the scrolls. I know with your intellectual and moral superiority, you don't get in the depths of pop culture.
That's not
But
true.
Will Smith is making a comeback tour.
Mm-hmm.
And he put out a new, he did some freestyles and promo. He's been making making travels around the podcast. He put out this song called I Like Pretty Girls with a video. Then he was in somewhere, Paris or somewhere, and he did a pop-up concert and everybody's staring at him confused. So all that to say is people are saying he's going through a midlife crisis. And a lot of people have been analyzing that. And then you had this guy, you know who Jim Jones is?
The rapper?
Not the cult leader. Yes,
the rapper.
Yeah. Which is weird as fuck. Why did he name himself after? But I digress.
I think it's like the influential that you can get people to shoot and kill for you, maybe.
I guess.
I mean, that's what rappers think, don't they?
Yeah, because he's with the Bloods, right? he going after trying to take out Tekashi. But anyway, he came out and said that he was better than Nas and that he was more influential than Nas. And so he started this whole viral exchange. Well, it wasn't even an exchange. It was a one-sided conflict. And people were like, yo, he's going through a midlife crisis. And they say he's like a 48-year-old YN. And so and that's just been going around. And then there's this other thing called like the male loneliness epidemic. So all these things floating around, and it got me thinking about people talking about midlife crisis, and there's several other celebrities people have been saying this about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's funny, we live in a society with perpetual compounding crisis. And what's even worse about that, the vast majority of recognized crises are invented or manufactured. They're not even real crises. Okay. Outside of, corporate propaganda and corporate media. And then the other crisis, and it's funny that everybody knows about midlife crisis. I was even accused of going through a midlife crisis. People used to, mostly jokingly, when I try to do something, anytime I try to pop out, I try a new style, a new look, and anything you do, when you reach my age, anything you do that's anyway just mildly a departure from what people are used to, they accuse you of having a midlife crisis. And midlife crisis is a myth. It's not even a real thing.
Mm-hmm. So you mean like biologically, intellectually, culturally, like is there? So how people have like, I think you and Jared talked about a movie a long time ago, or I don't know where it was, but those old men who have their one last day in the sun, and they like after 70, is that like you wanna do something to feel young again? So you might like buy a leather jacket, buy a bike, or
yes, that's the stereotype that if you get an older man that gets a sports car, then they say, well, he's having a midlife crisis. When in reality, most sports cars are purchased by older men because for the average person, it takes a lifetime to accumulate enough money and financial security to buy a sports car.
Okay.
Because if buying a sports car makes you middle-aged, I'm not going to hit middle-aged till I'm like 135. When I had to loot to do some shit like that. So.
Yeah. See, I think that's kind of what I heard it too. Like, not John, JM asked, like, isn't it midlife crisis just like a different way to say menopause for men? And I think that's what I thought people were saying, and I never really, I guess, explore some type of scientific or biological reality. And then as you was talking, I'm thinking of what's that thing where like rich people children, they have some type of
affluenza,
or when people say they got imposter syndrome. And I wonder if all those things are kind of in the same category of things, because I know using the word crisis makes it more broad or more larger than an individual person's situation. So I wonder if there is any scientific or whatever biological thing that we're trying to explain with that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the biology confuses, because midlife crisis and the very idea, because that's a purely social and cultural and psychological phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Midlife crisis is not a biological phenomenon.
Gotcha.
Because biology, the spectrum for biology is very wide. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of guys my age that are in better shape now than they were when they're in their 20s. I had homies when I was in college, dudes that would drink every day. When I was coming up, it was a 40 and a blunt is all I really want. And I know dudes that used to smoke Philly blunts and drink 40-ounce malt liquor. That's before your time. And St. Ides malt liquor, Schlitz malt liquor. And as they got older, they got married, a lot of them, to a black woman. And if you dated black women, you'd find out that they always trying to get you together. So a lot of these brothers got older, they got married and settled down, they started eating better, more nutritious foods. They stopped, they went from malt liquor to red wine, they went from blunts to CBD oil. So when you talk about biology, physiologically and their homeostasis, their instances of even chronic or acute injury and disease goes down. So you can't really say, well, yeah, when you hit an age, your body breaks down, your testosterone drops. And even though it's a fact that men, testosterone has a steep decline at 40, in a lot of ways that can be beneficial towards longevity and well-being, whether it's lower rates of aggression and even lower instances of like testicular cancer and things of that nature. And having a continued elevated testosterone level can cause a lot of problems for men as they age. So anyway, I think the biological and the sociological, psychological, economics are interrelated, but they're not the same.
So let's kind of examine this from like a class conscious perspective. Like Will Smith, what's happening to him, like in terms of his class is probably cemented in a position, and is it his relevancy? Is it his money resources running out and he got to stay relevant in that aspect? And is there something to be said about a coping mechanism and reflection of life that older males who are not so important as Will Smith? So are we saying there's nothing to call that like self-reflection, self-doubt period when you get old and you're thinking about dying and shit? It's nothing to really call that. And we definitely shouldn't be calling that to class traders and people who like, this motherfucker is set for the next forever. Like he don't really have to do anything.
But so he's miserable.
Yeah. You say he's miserable?
Yeah, he's miserable.
Will Smith?
Yes.
Why?
Did you? Well, I know you didn't. You got better. You respect your time more than that. And I'm not going to lie and say I read it, but I've read excerpts from his biography, Will.
Oh, no.
So according to him, I'm going off of what the man said about his own self and the things he went through. And he said that fame is a prison.
Okay, he said that in one of his articles. So I was about to say, I did read that one article. He said like a lot of weird shit like that.
Yeah, well, in the book, he said he had even, like, you think, oh, he's a wealthy, high value, as the sassy alpha man would call him. He was a high value man. And he said that even the fact that he had open access to women, but he never was able to really establish emotional connection. And then he said he had developed an allergy to sex, where he had so much sex with so many different women that he would get physically ill at the thought of sex. Or when he started to have an erection, he would start to, throw up and be physically ill and all that shit.
I ain't hear all that.
Yeah, so, and he didn't say miserable. I was reading that and I was thinking maybe I'm projecting, like if I was in that position, I would be miserable. And it's like you said, affluenza. There's a certain level where you can get enough material security and wealth. I won't even say wealth because it's not wealth, but you can get enough material security and satisfaction where adding on to that does not increase so there is a certain level where getting more material shit increases your sense of self, your identity, your ego, your well-being, your stability. But there's a point where that levels off, and adding more money and mansions and women onto that don't increase.
Right. I think and I think I asked you about this before, and I'm still curious if you, whenever you read it, I sent you the PDF. But that's kind of like what in Sky Full of Elephants, like the biracial daughter who lived in white proximity. Her mother's white, stepdad white, brother's white. But when they die, like she doesn't get to die with them. So like at all counts, you don't get access to whiteness. You can have proximity, but you're not gonna get access to it. And so are you saying it like that? Like Will and all these other people, they can have so many fly jets and meet everybody and do all these other things, but like they're gonna experience being black no matter where they at some level.
Yes, that's very true. I often say black wealth is a ransom that wealthy black people pay to avoid the worst outcomes of being a member of an oppressed class. But also, there comes a time where the human psyche has what, and this isn't the best application, but it has leveling impulses that they say. Your mind levels shit out. You cannot remain in an ongoing state of excitement, right? So let's say I hit the numbers next week and I said, I'm about to ball out. I'm gonna get all my homies together. And I'd be like, Geechee, I'm gonna send a private jet for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll fly y'all all to Chicago, put y'all in penthouses. We gonna kick it because I just got a windfall of money. I got me a settlement. I hit the number, something. When you go to that airport, you might be like, damn, this jet is wild. Wow, they got bubbly and champagne on the jet. Wow, look at this. Wow, and you'll be impressed. And your dopamine levels, you know, your pleasure hormones might increase. But if every time you fly, you're on a private jet, then you pretty much approach the private jet the same way someone who flies coach. The excitement levels off. It just becomes your new norm. Every time you level up, it becomes a new norm.
Mm-hmm.
And so wealthy people have to get higher and higher levels of stimulation and excitement in order to maintain the same shit. Like I come home and if I got some vegan Kit Kats on the table, I'm like, yeah, but you come home and it's a Rolex one day and it's a Lamborghini the next day, and then people have to keep level up. But that's just the human psyche though.
Yeah. I think I also just started thinking about the things that won't change despite jet life and riding coach is the way the fucking plane go up and kind of catches wind, it's still gonna drop your stomach. And then on your way down, you're like, damn, I could probably die. You know, Kobe, I'm pretty sure wanted to speed to his. So it's like, I think the things that you cannot escape, even with that, I don't know. I just wonder if that kind of people in those spaces, that's kind of, I don't want to say keep you grounded, because I feel like these motherfuckers still ain't grounded. But it kind of like reminds you, or maybe one of them died. Like when Kobe died, I'm pretty sure a bunch of celebrities probably like responded in a particular way, and think like, damn, I'm not untouchable. Or
I think you give them too much credit.
You think so?
Yeah. I think you give them too much credit, saying even though they have all this luxury shit, they still have common experiences. And when they have those common experiences, that somehow connects them to the rest of us. Because, you know, whether you're going down on Spirit Airline in the coach seats, or you're going down on a private jet.
I don't know if it connects it to us, but I think it's like you're gonna have constant reminders of your humanity and your blackness, no matter how you adjust to it or whatever. Like I guess that's what I'm saying. Now, what you do with it, like I told you the time that me and Charlamagne was arguing back about land and stuff, because he was trying to buy land back at home, and I think I was saying something about like power, and he was like, he offered the man the price he wanted, and then the man changed his mind and doubled the price, and then he couldn't afford it no more. And I was like, well, that's my point. So moments like that, like, even it don't matter who the fuck you are, like that man, that local man at home that nobody knows, you can't do nothing with the land you want because it's his. Now he get to go back home to his big ass house in New York, and he get to do all that, but he did experience like your black ass.
Right, but he's still the God. Did he after experiencing the fact that, hey, this fiat currency doesn't really change the power dynamic, did he change his name to Charlamagne the Angel?
No.
Charlamagne the Mortal? He's still Charlamagne the God at the end of the day.
The God among peasants.
Let me tell you, I think Lil Wayne gave us the perfect example of how affluent race traders behave.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and 50 Cent took the same position, believe it or not. He was dissing dark-skinned women. Mm-hmm. And he was like, since I got rich, since I got famous, all my women have been fair-skinned, have been preferences. And somebody reminded him, even though you have a preference for miscegenated or racially ambiguous women, or white women, you have a dark-skinned daughter. And he's like, true, I do have a dark-skinned daughter, but she's still better than the average dark-skinned because she's rich and dark-skinned.
Wait, Lil Wayne said this?
Yes. Y'all let Lil Wayne get away with so much.
I don't even listen to that dude, but he do say some wild shit. I remember.
Right.
Damn.
And so these preferences So they even say, yes, my money. Lord Jamar, he's another one that people are saying are going through a midlife crisis. He went and did a fake apology video in his backyard. And he had a private swimming pool that was very well landscaped. And the swimming pool had a waterfall in front of it. And he closed out his video saying, screw you, you can't criticize me because, I got money. And after I get off this video, I'm going to go hop in my private pool. And then he challenged anybody that wanted to criticize him to shoot a video from their backyard. And immediately after watching that, I envisioned my backyard, which is an alleyway with large dumpsters in it. I can't even put a kiddie pool in my backyard. My backyard is Chicago City property. I was tempted to go back there and shoot a response video from my backyard, but Lord Jamal, he gives strong blows in the heads of his foes, so I didn't want to start no mess with Lord Jamal.
Yeah, he's pretty corny.
The way he went crawling back to DJ Vlad, whenever I hear that strong blows to the heads of foes, it comes off a little different now. And I'll just leave it at that.
Vlad got all of them in the chokehold.
See, yeah, Paul. Well, you have to blame the audience as much as you blame the people sitting in front of the mics because he has 6 million followers. I don't follow or watch Vlad videos. And even though I don't follow or watch Vlad videos, I see a lot of black folks sharing and responding to the viral clips. And so Vlad is not just a product of the Uncle Toms who go on his show. He's also a product of the masses who watch that shit.
Mm-hmm. So this Will reference, I was looking, is this, he's on a podcast with this white boy talking about a midlife crisis? Is a series?
Who?
Will Smith.
No. The public is responding to his comeback tour and calling his comeback tour a midlife crisis. He didn't say that he's going through a midlife crisis. If you ask him, he says, I'm about to blow up in the rap game again. I think Will Smith's position is I let these weak MCs eat for 20 years, and now it's time for me to come back and reclaim my crown in the game. I think that's what he would say.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm tripping, bro. I think I just was looking at it, and I saw a white boy named Will Smith who has Will Smith's Midlife Crisis Management. And I was like,
no, I'm talking about Will Smith.
I know who you talking about, but I was trying to look and see because I didn't hear this, so I was trying to look something, and then this white boy pulled up, and I was like, wait, is he on a podcast with this white boy? But never mind.
No, I don't know. Maybe he is, but I don't know nothing about that. I'm just saying that it's funny because, like I said, let me see. No, this is a comedy show, right?
Yeah, that's why I thought it was Will Smith.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with our cultural icon.
Yeah, so Will Smith wants Jada's attention.
Way back in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is just a coincidence. I think Will Smith is a common name.
Yeah. Where there's a Will, there's a Smith. That's crazy as well. Nah.
So, yeah, but it's funny that you kind of touched on the biology part of it, because now even aging is considered something that poor people do. If you don't have the money for cosmetic surgery, if you don't have the time and resources to go to the gym, have a private cook and a what they call it, a nutritionist.
Oh.
And all that shit, you can't go to the doctor every month and get your blood work, then you broke. And you'll even see celebrities who age like normal people. Just by aging, allowing yourself to age normally, people will post your pictures and say you fell off, or you got addicted to drugs. The one sister from Jasmine guy from a different world.
What's wrong with her?
She's been getting that for days. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But look at the media around her appearance. Dame Dash, people, he can't get quality. He can't get his dentures resized. So just aging itself. And there's this one white tech billionaire who's going to live forever. and he's doing like blood transfusions with his son, and he's
Mhm.
living his life. He set up this AI program to maximize his cellular health down to a cellular level. So his exposure to sunlight, the amount of water he drinks, the electrolyte and mineral level of his water, the nutrition that he eats, the level of fats, carbs, everything that he eats is defined. His sleep cycle, even his sleep cycle, his sexual intercourse is all defined and laid out by this AI program. And he lives, he says, you know, I've surrendered my own independent thought and desires. He said, my only drive is to live according to this maximized artificial intelligent program that will tell me how to live a life that will grant me eternal life, if not live for decades or centuries beyond the normal human lifespan.
What's his, you know this name? What's this guy name?
I don't want to know his name.
Oh.
Let me see. I'll get it for you.
I just want to see how it work out for him.
He looks terrible. He looks terrible.
I was looking at Jasmine Guy picture. I think Jasmine.
What's his name?
Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson. You found it before me. Oh yeah, folks know it.
No, Musa, yeah.
Yeah. So but
Oh,
I worked in healthcare for years, and the life extension technology is out there. Life extension technology is out there. One of the most profitable black market items what do you think is one of the most profitable underground economy black market products there is in the global market?
Underground? I can't imagine.
The illegal organ trade. If you want to be a criminal, better than trafficking women better than trafficking, huh?
Is that why that Kanika Jenkins thing was real? Wasn't that happen in Chicago? Remember the video of so that was real.
I don't know if that was real. When you deal with organ trade industry and the illegal organ trade industry, there's a lot of people, because then they get into like Illuminati rituals and sacrifice. But I don't know. I can't say. But there are a lot of, especially because they want young people. They want young, healthy people. And there's a lot of times families will request an autopsy or something, or they'll go see their loved one in the morgue or at the funeral home, and they'll have autopsy scars. I don't know if you've ever seen where they split the sternum, the rib cage, they open the abdomen and chest cavity, and the average person doesn't really know how to identify whether someone's internal organs have been surgically removed or not. But we used to, when I worked at St. John's Hospital, and at that time in the 90s, Bronx had more asthma deaths. The Bronx had more asthma deaths in the Bronx than all the rest of the asthma deaths in the world combined. It was like a hotbed, because that's where New York had all of its bus depots.
And no trees.
Right. And so you would have these very fit young black men, 6 packs, muscular, slender, tall, dark, young men coming in on stretchers, and they would die from asthma attacks. And the harvesters would come in, and they come with these little refrigerated crates to harvest their organs, because the organs of teens and early 20s are the most sought after organs. And you go to some villages in Africa, some villages in India, and very poor countries, and everyone's got a kidney scar, because they've all sold a kidney, because you can sell a kidney and get goats or get a plot of land to harvest. So yeah, the illegal organ trade is very lucrative. I'm surprised more rappers that rap about, pimping and drug dealing, they don't rap about that.
Selling organs.
Yeah, because it outpaces all. So all that to say, that was a little tangent, but aging, normal human aging, or accelerated aging has always been, but now with technology, it's really the peer view of the poor. That man's gonna live forever. He has a son. Oh, there's the vow where he injects himself with his son's blood.
Oh, that's his son right there.
Mm-hmm.
What? Wait, what?
He injects himself with his son's blood and his father. He gives his father. They trade vows of their son's blood.
What is? I mean, now I see what Musa was saying about the science. Like, what the fuck? What? His son's blood is gonna do what?
Read the Iceman's Inheritance. This is very white, very consistent. They seek immortality while killing the world. Anyway.
So Will Smith gonna buy Jaden's blood and then drink?
I don't think Will Smith is on that. I think Will Smith is more interested in legacy, and I think a big part of what he's doing is trying to change the narrative, because he pretty much ruined his legacy with the issues going with him and Jada and his children, and the things that were alleged to have gone on in his household when his children were growing up, and of course putting hands on Chris the Coon Rock. So anyway, midlife crisis is not a real thing. And I do think that it is a marketing demographic. I think advertising does try to promote midlife crisis. And women, they have a more insidious thing they have to go through, like being past their prime, when a woman is no longer considered viable for reproduction or attractive to the average man's taste, where she's pretty much beyond her usefulness, because society says, well, the Bible and the Quran says women are here for breeding, and that's their main purpose for being. So even in secular societies, a lot of women hit that wall where they're no longer fertile, or their children are adults and they're no longer nurturers, and that tends to hit their identity, where men are like, well, I'm not as rich as I should have been, and not as powerful as I should have been, or famous as I should have been. So yeah, but I think a lot of that is a byproduct of corporate media and capitalist alienation.
So the only thing that you would argue for is, what is it, andropause, or what is the man testosterone decline? What is that called?
Who said andropause? There's no word for it. What do we need a word? It's like when
it's another word. I mean, what is it called though? Isn't it called something? But that's the only thing that you would say is real, and that's what people are trying. I thought it was andropause. I don't know.
Yeah, men's testosterone naturally declines over time.
But that's what I'm saying is, when that happens, is it a natural response to be like, still, I guess, prove that you have a particular level of testosterone, and that's what they could be calling the midlife crisis?
No, I don't think so.
Because I guess I saw whoever, Samuel Jackson, who said that Will Smith he's dealing with a life crisis because he's he got a new rap career or something going on. He's standing out with a crowd full of people, and they just like,
I don't think that was actually Samuel L. Jackson. That's just somebody who was pretending to be him. But that don't make the statement any less accurate. So you're right that was said. But I don't think it is, because, one of the most highly traded illicit drug in the United States is steroids. Steroids outsell meth, crack, heroin, all of them. That's steroid and illegal hormone replacement therapy, juicing with testosterone, outpaces all other drugs, because, heavy drug users when you see them in society, you're kind of taken aback. But if you interact with a man that's engaged with on T or using steroids, that's considered to be attractive. So, but again, the societal impacts are pretty much the same. You know, the physiological, you know, the heart trouble, the shrinking and calcification of the glands and the testicles and the penile gland. It's a mess. But I'm not sure you really want midlife crisis to be a biological phenomenon. And you know, I looked at, you know, what social scientists and psychologists say about it, and they say, you know, 15 to 20% of middle-aged people tend to go through the phenomenon that we would define as a midlife crisis. So even if you were to say, well, it's not a real thing, it's mythological, but if we identify some characteristics that can be defined as midlife crisis, they only apply to, on the high end, 20%.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't know. I think maybe the class point of people obsession, and I know, as you said, and the software used to say as well, most of it is our fault for how we aid and abet or support celebrities. But driving home the class point of, I guess, just destroying it all together is one thing, but people's obsession with celebrities and trying to analyze every part of a celebrity life. What is that? What is the response to that? Of how? I mean, I know we just can stop following celebrities, but
well, we can redefine celebrity though, because there were times where scholars and scientists and inventors were celebrities. Like in his day, Nikola Tesla, the inventor, was a celebrity. Karl Marx was a celebrity. So a celebrity is a person who is admired by the masses because they embody the aspirational aspects of society. So a society where the highest aspirational status is having a lot of fiat currency and having all the things that fiat currency can accumulate, then you make Kim Kardashian and Kanye's and them into celebrities. But there were times like Kwame Ture, even though he would reject this term, but if you look at how he moved from SNCC to the Black Panther Party to the All African People's Revolutionary Party, he was a celebrity. A lot of people from that era mimicked his style of dress, the way he moved. When his wife, when he got married, he married one of the most prominent international superstars of the time. He lived like a celebrity. Not that that was his goal or his mission, but just by simply staying true to his ideology and principles, and as he leveled up in his revolutionary aspirations, he became a celebrity. But we just don't use that term because the celebrity, or even like revolutionary elite, you know, or the revolutionary celebrities, those terms have been sullied because of the capitalist elites and the mass media celebrities. But you'll find that revolutionaries were superstars, and when they came around people, they could fill up arenas. You know, they fill up auditoriums at least. So the problem isn't that that the masses of people have a tendency to look at somebody who embodies their values and their thoughts and their ideas and look at them with aspirations and even try to embody and mimic some of their actions. The problem is we don't pick our celebrities. Our celebrities, Black celebrities, are handpicked by our oppressors. If we could pick our own celebrities, and then we could, as a culture and a community, define the characteristics that we deem worthy of celebrating, that we say, well, it ain't how much money you got that makes you. It ain't how well you dance. It ain't how good you can chase a ball. Because to me, Muhammad Ali was a celebrity, but not because of his boxing, but because of his political stances, despite all his contradictions. I would look up to You know, the basketball player I admire the most is Craig Hodges. You know, the ball chaser I admire the most is what's that boy? I can't even say I admire the most. But if I had to pick one, Colin Kaepernick. You know what I'm saying? So if we change up our level of consciousness, class consciousness, racial solidarity, we don't have to, celebrity culture is like, the only reason celebrity culture is bad because we make the wrong motherfuckers famous.
Yeah, make, or as you said, are giving with soft violence, or I don't know. I got psychological warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And warfare is a two-way thing. You can't, and I agree, psychological warfare is a thing, but just the word warfare is an engagement between two factions.
Right. Or psychological assault.
Assault.
Right. Yeah.
Psychological degradation, menticide.
Yeah, I hear that. Mm-hmm.
And take nothing away from Jacob Carruthers and all the other scholars that wrote about psychological warfare, but warfare denotes two fighting factions engaging with each other.
Well, it's safe to say that Carruthers and Amos Wilson and Walter Rotten, it's safe to say that they did fight back and attempt to fight back. And I don't know. I think it's safe to say that in terms of psychology, I think they did fight back. Bobby E. Wright.
They sought to attack white people.
Well, I think preparing yourself to fight or organizing yourself to fight is an attempt to fight back, I would think. So, for instance, if Black people are being assaulted and you are trying to organize them to respond or defend themselves,
and they ignore the shit out of you.
But
you ain't at war. You're not at war. Listen. I wish
it's a skirmish.
I prefer war to being oppressed. But
I'm not saying the fight ever got off the ground. I think how about the plan to fight and the strategy to?
Okay, they were freedom fighters. They were engaged in resistance. But I'm just being nitpicky when you say psychological.
No, I feel that. That's fair.
But a lot of times we like to imagine, brother go out and go to his local gun shop and gun range and shoot his gun off, shoot off his little 45 and his little, and really think, this man stepped to me. And they don't even have to step to him. They just cut his water off. They don't even have to bring out the guns. They just lower his credit score 50 points and they shut his ass down. And brothers really out here, got basements full of MREs and provisions and shit.
Grenades.
We at war with the system. Yeah, okay. So yeah. I just like to be more accurate, but that's me. The lead said wars can be one-sided.
I mean, war can be declared by one side, but I guess to actually, I kind of see what you're saying though, to actually call it a war or warfare, which means actively. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, no, well, a one-sided war, what do you call it?
I don't know. Again,
I don't know. A massacre. You call that an atrocity, a massacre, a slaughter.
Well, I'm saying a war on something or someone or a group was declared, but if they're not fighting back, then you won't technically say that's what's happening. So, but it was declared when they did a thing. They were.
But it has to be. So, I go outside and I see a man sitting peacefully in the park and I begin to beat him, and he never strikes me back. Would you say I got into a fight?
Well, individually, but if there's a plan to, because even like if you think about politics and war and politics, as the Panthers say, when you politically castrate a group of people, it is a declaration of war against them. Now, whether they respond back,
well, to be honest with you, the UN has defined war And the UN has a specific definition of war. And it says a state of armed conflict between nations or organized groups involving organized violence. So I don't see, it says conflict, not an assault, not an attack. But again, I think semantics matter. Mm-hmm. And I agree that if you have two or groups, like when the U.S. was fighting against Germany, there were psyops on both sides and war propaganda. Throughout the Cold War, which is a misnomer, but let's pretend and call it the Cold War, there were proxy wars all over the place. But before I can define it, 'cause I don't even like people saying Israel is at war with Gaza.
Huh?
I don't like the notion that Israel is at war with Gaza.
What, you want it the other way around?
No, because it's not a war.
Wait, what are you calling it?
Let me put it this way. Let's say the U.S. military put fortifications around Harlem and then started bombing Harlem. Would you say the United States is at war with Harlem?
If it's bombing, I mean, again, so that's what whenever you're saying so-and-so is at war with somebody and somebody's saying somebody are engaged in warfare or whatever, I think that's probably why I'm saying it. It's like if you know, so here's the example. I grew up with, and both of them, both of them are some type of distant cousins. And from my early age young all the way up until maybe a couple years ago, each family has been constantly killing a member of the family and back and forth.
The Hatfields and McCoy.
Well,
right? You familiar with that?
Yeah. But that's
I'm not a war though. That's a feud. That's a blood feud.
But that's what I'm saying. I think people are using, because whenever you think about even the word of war, or it's talk about feuds and struggles and quarrels and battles and whatever. And so even when you read our Nana Kuntu, he talks about there was intentions of strike backs, and so now
intentions.
What was it, a war between non-equals? I would say, I mean, we always say
even
that,
if it's a war between non-equals. If you look, Gaza, when I was coming up and I was a student of political science, they called it the Gaza Strip. Mm-hmm. They stopped calling it the Gaza Strip because they call it Gaza, which is psychological warfare, in order to give it more of a presence. But the Palestinians are isolated to two neighborhoods.
Do they have a military?
No.
They don't have a military representative?
No.
Protecting them? No.
Who? The Palestinians? No. Who told you the Palestinians have a military?
No, what I'm saying, do they have somebody fighting?
Yes, but that doesn't make you a warfare. That does not constitute a war or an army. People fighting. But like I said, the Gazans are isolated to two small isolated areas in the nation of Israel. Mm-hmm. The West Bank and the Gaza Strip. You ever been to a bank? A bank is a defined area along the water. You ever been to the Strip? Like in Kansas City, you know, the Sunset Strip. In Kansas City, they have Prospect. That's the strip where the black community go with the nice cars. These are small. You know that Gaza, up until the intensification of the slaughter, because Israel's been committing genocide since 1947. So they've intensified the genocide, but it's not new. But prior to, I don't know the demographics right now, but prior to October of 2024, the Gaza Strip had the highest land density, highest land density of anywhere on Earth. And land density is measured by people per square mile. And there was no plot of land, there's no plot of land anywhere in the world that had the highest concentration of human bodies than the Gaza Strip. They don't have the capacity to declare, wage war. Now, resistance, which is what I would say Amos Wilson and Del Jones, they were engaged in resistance. But a war, even guerrilla warfare, they're not even in a position to engage in guerrilla warfare. Mm-hmm. But again, that's a semantical thing. But I think when we, especially for the average person that's not really hip to the geography, you know, or the terms, when you say the war in the Middle East and the war in Israel is at war with Gaza, I think in the average American's imagination, they imagine two nations and two armies and two forces, Hamas and IDF, going at it. When it's literally the United States military with all its nukes, its tanks, its drones, going to war with Harlem. And if the United States went to war with Harlem, yeah, I've been to Harlem. I love Harlem, not to stay, but to visit. There would be some brothers shooting back, and brothers would push back. But you can't define them brothers as an army. And I'm sure they would look and say, well, there's a faction in Harlem because, you know, they got the Wisdom School there, which is kind of like the headquarters of the Nation of the Gods and Earth, the 5 Percenters. So yeah, they've got this organization, this terrorist organization. But no, I think when I said military, so not specifically the type of branch or whatever, but organized resistance is what I think I was referring to, and what people would call, like, there are people who, there's a powerful armed group that's operating on the borders or engaged in some type of conflict or defending of themselves, or, as you said, resistance. And again, I think because people use the term loosely, and I have no problem, right? Because they don't have they do, as you're right, they don't have internationally recognized group that you would say this is their military, but they do have, you know, again, that's what I'm thinking, like, maybe you're right, maybe that's why Nana Kuntu or anybody shouldn't say we're at war, even though they did say that, but there was a building up of trying to organize armed resistance and or whatever else it takes to get free, which I guess. But like I said, that's more of a semantical argument. But like I said, when I talk to people about conditions, or even when you talk about Sudan and the atrocities in Sudan, and that's a civil conflict, that's a civil war, and they claim it's really Arabs and Arabized Africans attacking Africa. So it's an ongoing, that's another centuries old conflict they act like just popped up. But when they talk about these conflicts, when they really start to happen, like back in 2008, 2009, when Obama was engaged in international war crimes and targeting and detaining and assassinating U.S. citizens without a warrant, without any type of due process, I'm like, yeah, Obama's a fascist. But when real fascists come around, and then I'm like, oh shit, I've been kind of just throwing fascists at anybody in an influential or powerful state position or corporate position, corporate fascism. But now the real fascists are at the door. You have to be more specific, because there are a lot of people that believe there's no difference between Trump and Kamala. There was no difference between Obama or difference between. So now I have to no, there are specific differences. And there are specific approaches that we need to adjust between these two, both capitalist, both imperialist, both genocidal factions that have different strategy, tactics, approaches, and different levels of reach, and whether it's an acceleration or a deviation from the agenda. So That's when the real shit come through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's all. But you know, there's one part I wanted to get into before we ran out of time. And what I want to talk about, since we're talking about crisis, and I think you're in the camp of midlife crisis is real and it has a biological component.
You say I'm in the camp?
Yeah, that's what you believe. Oh shit!
No. I'm trying to figure out what are people trying to explain, and I think that, as you said, there's a time when your testosterone levels will decline.
That doesn't.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not in the camp of. I've never really understood it. I know that there's what I heard about menopause and hot flashes and all these other things with women, but I don't know what that is with men.
When men age, their testosterone levels decline.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not lead to a crisis. That is not inherently a crisis. In fact, you would be in crisis is if you go through puberty, where you have the rush of testosterone, your voice deepens, you develop acne, you know, you grow pubic hairs, right? If your testosterone levels remain that high, then that's the crisis. The crisis is if your testosterone levels remain unnaturally high. And there are some men who do have a condition. You know, I think it's the XXY syndrome or something. I don't remember. But their testosterone either levels off and then shoots back up, or when it goes up, it never goes down. And they have to give those men estrogen treatment to counteract because they can't even metabolize the testosterone. Hypo and hyper and hypo. So you have your endocrine system, your organs produce and regulate hormones. And if that goes out of whack and you have too little or you have too much, but most people consider when men, like if I started doing, you ever watch King of the Hill?
The cartoon?
Yeah.
I mean, I've saw it before, but.
Well, there's a really good episode where he had low testosterone, abnormally low testosterone for his age. And his physician prescribed him testosterone treatments. And he went home and laid up with his wife. And his wife, he was a man. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Okay, then I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it mixed up. Thank you. But I think it's the XYY then, one of those chromosomal issues. But she was very enamored by the fact that he was a manly again. And so she started overdosing him with testosterone. She was slipping testosterone in his coffee, putting testosterone in his sandwich, and he started getting muscles. He started going longer in the bed and being more intense in the bed, woo, woo, woo. And he was even being more aggressive to his friends and bucking people down. And then he started developing acne, you know, and his hair grew in thicker, and he started going through puberty in his 40s. That's a real phenomenon. But the problem with that is your endocrine, if you are a healthy person, now, if you have some type of endocrine issue where you have low testosterone, but in a healthy person, if you abnormally elevate your testosterone, what is the byproduct of abnormally elevated testosterone? Your estrogen levels go up because your body is always trying to get to homeostasis. So if you're abusing testosterone, then your body's going to naturally stop producing testosterone and is going to unnaturally start overproducing estrogen to level you off, right? And so the moment you stop doing testosterone, you grow breast. The men develop gynecomastia. Their voice raises. They become not aggressive, but they become more emotional in the other way, more sensitive. They start to cry a lot. So it's just not.
Don't do that. Don't do that labeling of sensitivity, crying a lot. Sensitive also can mean reacting very quickly and violently and still be sensitive. So when you say that the men are becoming sensitive, they always probably was sensitive if they was ready to throw a hand.
You sounding mad sensitive right now.
I'm just saying. No,
I
I'm
didn't
just
mean
saying.
to strike a nerve.
No, I'm just saying that I've
I didn't
always
mean
heard.
to strike a nerve.
I've always
You
heard
one of
people
the
try to.
modern,
No,
forward-thinking, progressive,
all I know is
non-toxic
people try to
brothers. I'm so
genderize
sorry.
sensitivity.
I
People try
didn't
to
mean to strike.
genderize sensitivity as
Okay,
crying
you're
is
Ralph
sensitive.
Tresvant.
No, no, I think sensitivity is also niggas who really easily angered and ready to fight. That
Okay,
sensitive.
Ralphie. Okay, go call them that to their face and see what
Jay
happens.
Z says sensitive thugs, you all need hugs. So don't do that.
Okay, let's do a speed run, right?
Mhm.
I want to talk about various crises, right? And I want to say, is this a real legitimate crisis? Because we're in two different camps. I tell you that midlife crisis is artificial.
You gonna stop throwing me over there because I ain't say I'm over there. I ask
Okay,
questions.
okay.
I've never once said I think midlife crisis is a thing. I actually
Do you
examine.
want
I'm
to
saying
share with us? Do you think it is? Well, when
I
you get to midlife, wait another what 20 years, and 20 years come back to me.
well, I don't know. I've never really seen. I've heard arguments around men feeling like they want to be young again, but I don't. I've never really
But that's a
fed in.
marketing scheme.
But this is my point, though. What I'm saying is, I've never looked into it. So today, I only came asking questions like, "Well, what are they trying to say?" And this is what
Right.
they're trying to say. Is
But
it
that's not
biological?
biological. That
Right. So,
perpetual youth and always stay young, that's a corporate capitalist marketing
so
scheme.
I'm not in that camp. But go ahead. Let's speed up.
Okay, the speed run is I'm going to mention some crisis,
Okay.
and I want to know, is it a true crisis, a real? And I know manufactured crisis is a bit of a shaky word
Because it
because
still can be manufactured.
there are many real crises that were manufactured. But when I
Absolutely.
say manufactured crisis, I say it in the context is that it's manufactured in our minds. It's
Okay.
not a real crisis in society or in the world.
Okay.
All right. So the first crisis is the immigrant crisis. They're
Not a
eating the
crisis.
cats. They're eating the dogs. They're invading the
There's not
crisis
an
at
immigrant.
the border.
There's no immigrant crisis other than the immigrants who first came here. That was a crisis.
They weren't immigrants. They were invaders.
Same thing.
You go, okay. We just going, the
They,
semantics show.
what I'm saying is they the real immigrants who that we should be
They're not
worried about. Is
immigrants.
what I'm
They're
saying.
invaders.
I hear that. What I'm saying is the immigrants that they're trying to label, they're them, but forget it. Right. Boom. No crisis. Go ahead. Next one.
The Europeans are invaders,
I
not
know
immigrants.
that. What I'm saying is you know how the rhetorical
Yes,
ethic,
I agree. Yeah.
it's the rhetorical ethic thing that remember
Yes.
Ronnie taught us. But go ahead.
Yes.
Next one.
Okay. So okay. I know you sharp.
Here we
Okay.
go.
So immigration crisis, the border crisis is manufactured in our minds. It is a crisis because people are suffering, but in terms of it's the people who are curing the crisis actually create the crisis. All right. So global warming.
Global warming. I think climate change is a legit crisis.
Okay. Sharp. This might go a lot faster than
Which
I thought.
which I think I want. Well, eventually I want to bring on some people from Sapelo Island who is actually experiencing land seizure from the University of Georgia and some more state funding, but also like climate change is definitely impacting that island in Georgia.
If you ask me, climate change is the number one crisis facing the world. I can't think of a bigger crisis.
I mean, yeah, there's no argument there.
Okay.
I hope. I mean, well, I don't know. There's probably arguments from other people, but go ahead.
White genocide. It's a legitimate. There are billions of dollars. The richest man in the world is giving resources, paying white people to reproduce, and there was just.
I mean, that's the number one purveyor of the actual climate crisis, though.
The white genocide is a crisis.
I think whiteness is a very large.
So you think white genocide is a crisis? Damn. Let me change my notes.
White genocide, like meaning like white folks or whiteness is terrorizing the planet?
No, white people being erased by minorities.
I thought you said genocide by white people.
Have you ever heard about the browning of Europe?
I thought you were saying white people performing genocide, not being genocide.
No.
Oh no,
I thought you were sensitive. You're not sensitive to what the white people are going through.
not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. They're worse than Will Smith to me. I don't know what the fuck they got
I
going
know
on.
you're laughing, but like I said, there are organizations and movements
I'm about to look.
around, and the most powerful individuals in the world, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, are out here saying that there's a white genocide and that every white woman is obligated to have at least 2 children to
Oh,
stop the white genocide.
yeah.
You
By
call
the
yourself sensitive and you don't even know what these people are
wait,
going through.
wait. They saying the Jewish people are responsible for that?
Well, they say that
I never
now.
heard of that shit. To be honest with
See,
you.
listen. This is how that goes, right? The Christian nationalists, the anti-Semites, the nationalists. This is their position. If you read these books that were very popular in the 90s, Behold a Pale Horse, Conspirators' Hierarchies, Pawns in the Game, uh, um, the Trilateral Commission. If you read those conspiratorial books, or if you follow Alex Jones or any of those characters, Ralph Ellison, their position is this: the Ashkenazim, the elders of Zion, they run the world, and the only people offering real resistance to their conquest of the world are white Christian men. Because white Christian men truly love freedom and liberty. And non-white and non-Christian people are pretty much naturally inclined to be slaves. Africans, Asians, Native Americans, well, they call them all Mexicans, are naturally inclined. Not only they're naturally inclined to be slaves, but they are not intelligent enough to recognize and counteract the machinations, the actions of the Illuminati, right? So they want to breed out the heterosexual Christian white man. And once they get rid of their number one adversary, they will complete their conquest of the world. That's what they're teaching.
Mm. Bullshit. Okay, next one. What the fuck?
So, all right. What about the male loneliness epidemic?
Yeah, bro. No, I'm joking. No, I don't know nothing about that either.
That's not a crisis.
I've never heard of it, and I've been a male for 41 years. I haven't seen it.
You just got them all lined up, huh?
No, I'm just saying. I mean, I think the dating pool can be hard, but that just depends. But I don't know about that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing where they associate having sexual partners. You know what I'm saying? Because the male loneliness epidemic is rooted around men who cannot secure intimate partners of the opposite sex. Men can't get women to be with them.
Like in a relationship or just having sex with them?
Or either or both.
I mean, but there's a sex work industry, so that's not gonna work.
But that's lonely.
Okay, but I've never heard.
I don't know. Maybe it's different for you when you go and get those services. But for many men who get those services, they feel like it's transactional. There's no real.
Well, why the industry is so big then?
Huh?
The industry is big, so it's obviously meeting somebody need.
Because brothers, men be out here lying, especially these Muslim and Christian and pious men. Like remember when Dr. Fubar was walking around saying he was celibate?
Oh yeah. And then soon when Snooki with the good coochie came around, he was smitten. Yeah, I remember.
He was turning her around. He was enlightening her and educating her.
And he needed to clean off his image because he was smitten.
And so, okay, the male loneliness, man, you cold.
Yeah, throw that shit away, bro.
I don't hear try to front like you sensitive.
I mean, I am sensitive, but yeah.
Nuclear war. Are we on the verge of nuclear annihilation? Is that a real crisis?
I think if the US makes more powerful countries defend themselves and currently, I think we could get into some wild shit, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
You don't know if it's a crisis. Do you lose sleep behind nuclear weapons?
Right now? No. Not really.
Wow.
I don't think.
I don't think there's a nuclear war crisis, but there is a nuclear waste crisis and a nuclear contamination crisis that we're all unaware of.
Go back
And
to
people
global
always
warming.
say, like, oh, we're going to have a nuclear war. It doesn't have to be a war to contaminate the land, air, and sea with nuclear fallout. And there have been millions of atmospheric and underwater and land testing of nukes. There are nuclear subs emitting radioactive materials. If you want to talk about a nuclear war being a conflict where radioactive toxic materials were deployed, then the Iraqi invasion was a nuclear conflict because they were using depleted uranium and other cesium and other alpha particles. The soil and land of Iraq will be contaminated for the rest of human history and reality. So the planet is contaminated, the oceans and the atmosphere. Fukushima, 3 Mile Island. What's the one in Ukraine? Well, there have been several nuclear meltdowns. Every day there are hundreds of nuclear power plants in the United States and across the world where they are producing nuclear waste that will be radioactive for millions of years, and they have no place to store it. They have no place to store it. So what's funny is people are looking down saying there could be this nuclear holocaust, this nuclear conflict, when there's already nuclear contamination and fallout. Chernobyl, thank you.
Oh.
So in the way, the nuclear war, or people saying, well, we have to avoid a nuclear war, the extent to where a nuclear war will lead to our environment being inundated by nuclear waste and radioactive waste and toxic waste,
but not based off not based off of your definition of war, though.
Right. So no, nuclear war currently is not a crisis. The number one threat and nuclear aggressor in the world is the United States. Although we've had nukes for over half a century, only one nation in the world has used nuclear weapons in a conflict, and that's the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have these scaled down nukes, depleted uranium tip, bunker busters have a nuclear component. And they have these micro nukes and all this shit. So I do think that nuclear production of nuclear isotopes, the mining of uranium, and the production of nuclear waste is a crisis that is more immediate than the threat of nuclear war.
You
know,
no argument.
So that is a 7, 8. Oh, here, Black family. The destruction of Black family by feminism and welfare.
No.
Is there a crisis of the Black family?
Next. We all. I mean, you got me kicked out of the conscious community last time we had this conversation, bro. So
I'm asking, so it's a crisis. Is it a crisis?
Listen, bro. I can't even go to the.
This is the last. We'll stop here because I know you can't answer this one. You can't answer these other crises.
I just can't go to the. I can't go to the Kwanzaa Black Power events. You know what? In fact, I'm speaking at this thing where there's gonna be more white people than Black people, and it's your fault, right? So I got to go to this intensive in Lexington, Kentucky, and yeah, so I got kicked out of the Black conscious community because of you last time conversation. I don't want to have this conversation no more. But no, there ain't no war against.
Well, just join that. Come over here with me. It's not a community, it's a brigade, the Hater Brigade. Come join the Hater Brigade.
I'm already over here, man, but I want to get invited to nice adventures and lectures and shit like that, but I want to speak.
You can set your own up, like a tea
party.
No, bro,
they're not gonna show up because I got sanctions.
Put them around the table.
I got kicked out of the conscious community for hanging around.
The Black family is not. Yeah, I agree that the Black family. The problem is not the fact that the Black family has vanished. The problem is that we try to mimic the structure of white families. But if you define family as Africans define family, multi-generational, communal, and you will see that the Black family is enduring, but just not, if it ain't Leave It to Beaver, if we weren't trying to mimic Lever to Beaver, we could truly acknowledge and support. But anyway, I'll leave it at that, man. I appreciate you. We didn't have time to get to Q&A.
Cook up the Q&A for later, man. Sorry.
I
said
next time.
Q&A for later. They'll be all right.
Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back next time. So listen, and we didn't even get into the real crisis. Well, we talked about nuclear fallout and global warming. There's a lot of real crises that don't get any attention, and a lot of fake crises that we focus on. So I didn't ask you about the transgender and gay agenda crisis.
I ain't seen.
I got a lot. There's so many real crises that you never see in the mass media, and so many fake crises that you hear from everywhere. Even our so-called scholars and freedom fighters and revolutionaries be pushing a lot of fake crises.
But we probably should rehash one of those conversations. So if there's somebody who has some evidence that they could argue one of these crises, we will definitely challenge you to a debate. Yeah.
Come through.
So if you got any of those agendas,
but you got to be nice, because we've learned today that Geechee is quite a sensitive man. So we will debate in the most, soft, delicate manner possible.
Yeah. Shout out to all the sensitive brothers inside there.
Yeah. And all the hard as stone, rock solid brothers too. We don't get enough love. All right, bro. Next time.
All right,
next
y'all.
week. Peace.